What if I told you that the haunting world of Silent Hill, the foggy streets, the eerie silence, the fire smoldering beneath your feet, wasn't just fiction? While you've seen it in video games and movies, its roots come from a real-life town buried in tragedy. Welcome to Centralia, Pennsylvania, a place so unsettling it inspired horror legends. Let's dive into the true story of this ghost town and uncover why it still burns beneath the surface. Centralia, Pennsylvania, was officially founded and incorporated in the year 1866. Like many small towns during that time, it grew around a single, powerful industry, in this case, coal mining. Centralia's core was coal. It fueled the town's growth, supported families, and provided jobs. Almost all of the residents relied on the mines in one way or another. Of course, the work was dangerous, but it was a way of life for the Centralian people. The town prospered along with the coal industry. About 2,000 people moved to Centralia. Families knew one another, children played in the streets, and adults found comfort in the steady rhythm of life in this tight-knit town. Not only was the town surviving, it was thriving. Centralia had all the signs of a thriving community during what many would call its golden years. There were 5 schools where children could get a good education. The town was home to 7 churches, and faith was deeply rooted in daily life. 5 hotels provided a place to rest for both workers and tourists. There were 27 saloons, plenty of spots for miners to relax after a long day underground. On their nights off, the town's 2 theaters provided entertainment for the locals. Centralia was fully equipped for day-to-day life. People could save their earnings at the local bank, stay in touch with the outside world through the post office, and shop at 14 general stores that carried everything from supplies to food. The beginning of Centralia's downfall started on May 27, 1962. It was right before Memorial Day, and the town was busy getting ready for the celebrations. People were planning parades, gatherings, and spending time with their families. But while everyone was focused on the upcoming holiday, there was a growing problem that couldn't be ignored anymore. The landfill in Centralia was in a terrible state. It needed to be cleaned up before the celebrations because it was piled high with trash. The landfill itself was massive, about 300 feet wide and 75 feet tall. Yet, the location, directly on top of an old abandoned coal mine, made the situation even more dangerous. During a city council meeting earlier that month, local officials decided the best way to handle the garbage was to burn it. Setting the trash on fire and letting it burn itself out was meant to be a quick and easy fix. That's exactly what they did on May 27th. What they didn't realize was that this decision would change the town forever. The fire didn't stay where it was supposed to. Instead, it crept into the old coal seams beneath the landfill. The fire found an unlimited supply of fuel once it reached the underground coal. Gradually, it started to spread under the whole town. The local fire brigade made every effort to stop it. They tried, but the fire continued to spread. Things really started to feel serious when gas station owners checked the temperatures of their underground fuel tanks. The temperature was 397 degrees Fahrenheit, which is dangerously close to the temperature needed for gasoline to explode. Flames soon started to rise through the earth's cracks. There was an overpowering, terrible stench in the air, like coal and burning trash. Panic set in, and some residents began to leave town on their own. It was now obvious that this was no ordinary fire. The risk was far greater, and it was not going away anytime soon. The officials in Centralia understood they needed to move quickly as the underground fire continued to spread. They used all the strategies they could think of to put out the fire. First, they pumped large amounts of water into the mines, hoping to drown the fire. When that failed, they tried smothering the heat by laying thick layers of clay on the surface. After that, they injected a mixture of ash, water, and rocks, something called a slurry, into the burning areas below the town. But none of it was successful. No matter what they did, the fire kept burning. Too much fuel for it to eat, and it was deep underground. At some point, it became obvious that there was no way to put out the fire. The town was in danger, and it was no longer safe for people to live there. So, authorities had to make a difficult decision. They issued an evacuation order and condemned Centralia. People were forced to abandon their communities, homes, and stable lives. Still, not everyone wanted to go. Some residents refused to leave, even though the air was thick with smoke and the ground was becoming unstable. They couldn't imagine giving up their homes, and they hoped the danger would pass. But the fire continued to spread, and the health risks only got worse. One of the most alarming signs came in 1981. A 12-year-old boy named Todd Domboski was playing in his backyard when the ground suddenly opened beneath him. He fell into a sinkhole that was 150 feet deep. Toxic gases surrounded him, and it could have been fatal. But thankfully, his 14-year-old cousin was nearby and pulled him out just in time. That moment changed everything. It showed the true extent of the fire's danger, not only in Centralia but also in the neighboring towns. As carbon monoxide poisoning reports started to surface in the nearby boroughs, more people had to leave. What started off as a simple trash fire had grown into an unstoppable disaster, and it was far from over. After the dreadful sinkhole incident involving 12-year-old Todd Domboski, the gravity of Centralia's underground fire could no longer be ignored. The ground had opened up without warning, spewing toxic gas and heat. This was no longer just a local issue. Rather, it was a growing danger that required immediate action. In response, evacuations were sped up. In 1992, Bob Casey, the governor of Pennsylvania, took over and officially declared eminent domain over the entire town of Centralia. This meant that even if the residents of a property did not wish to sell or vacate, the government may legally seize ownership of it. A lot of people who had lived there for generations found it to be a heartbreaking moment. Some locals tried to defend their homes by fighting back in court, but despite their efforts, all legal attempts to stop the condemnation failed. Then, in 2002, another blow came. Centralia's zip code, 17927, was officially suspended by the U.S. Postal Service. The town seemed to be being wiped off the map. The government allocated $42 million to help residents with their relocation. Many took the offer, leaving behind homes, lives, and memories as they moved to safer locations. However, a few people refused to leave. They were too attached to their town. Finally, a deal was struck that allowed the remaining residents to continue living in their homes. But once they passed away, their properties would be seized to ensure no one else would ever live there again. Centralia is a ghost town now. It draws in curious visitors who want to see the haunting remains of a once bustling community. The streets are deserted and cracked, and smoke often rises from below. Buildings have collapsed, and nature is gradually taking over the area. Some say Centralia feels haunted. Strange noises, a feeling of being watched, and ghost sightings are all reported. The smoldering ground and dense fog further deepen the mystery. There are still cemeteries close to the burned-out area, leading some people to believe that this abandoned location might be the entrance to hell itself, or something far darker. While Centralia is known for its devastating underground fire, some visitors believe there's something even more unsettling going on, something that can't be explained by science alone. A few people have reported strange, even paranormal events. Two stories, in particular, stand out. The first is from a person who traveled to Centralia with a few friends. They were exploring well-known locations, such as the burning hillside, the cracked stretch of Route 61, and the deserted lanes where homes had once been. They smelled smoke, like sulfur or rotten eggs, while strolling by an old cemetery on the east side of town. They heard a voice as they approached a burning hillside. At first, it was hard to make out, but then it got clearer. It said, "Leave this place." After a moment, the hill's steam thickened, and the smell intensified. Spooked, but curious, they started to head back toward the cemetery. Then they heard the voice again. "Why did you come here?" It seemed to be coming from nearby bushes this time. Although they couldn't see anyone around, all three of them heard it. Only they were there. No other cars, no other people. After returning home, they checked up the place they had visited and found that it was very close to the fire's first origin. That made the whole experience even more chilling. The second story comes from a man named Jim and his girlfriend Lori. On their way home one day, they decided to stop in Centralia. They came across an abandoned twin home marked for demolition and decided to explore it. They walked inside after entering through the back door. It was quiet, cold, and dark. They heard footsteps from the third floor as they arrived in the corridor close to the stairs. The sound grew louder, like someone was coming down the stairs. But when they checked, no one was there. Shaken, they hurried back to their car. They both had the impression that someone, or something, had been watching them, even though they never saw anything. The fire did not claim any lives, but it left significant emotional scars. Centralia's fall from a thriving town to a smoldering wasteland is haunting. The loss is more than just a physical one for people who considered it home. Today, it stands silent and eerie, a real-life Silent Hill, frozen in sorrow and smoke. That was all for today. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the Suspense Room to unlock more stories.